Leaders of Tomorrow 18-hour special initiative that celebrates the undying entrepreneurial spirit of micro, small and medium enterprises. This is the only daily MSME platform in the country, a show where you can voice your concerns and get answers to all your queries directly from our team of experts. We understand the issues that you, the MSME entrepreneur, face, and the show aims to bring you the most relevant and the most updated information on everything related to your businesses. Tonight, I'm in conversation with Dhruv Shringi of Yatra.com. Dhruv, thanks very much for speaking with us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. Let's start by talking about how the travel industry has possibly changed over the past decade and what, in your mind, the biggest disruptor has really been in this space and what the biggest disruptors are really going to be going forward.
I think the travel industry has come a long way from where we started off back in 2006. So I think at that point in time, if my memory serves me right, we had about 35 to 40 million air travelers in India, and we are today now talking about 100 million travelers. The industry was very fragmented, largely offline, very little online intervention, and online penetration of transactions was a minuscule low single digits. So I think from that time the industry has come a long way. Today you're looking at 100 million people traveling by air, almost half of that being booked online, about 600,000 odd rooms being booked in India every day. Again, of that about 25% being booked online. So it's come a very long way from where it started off. It started off being a largely fragmented industry dominated by mom and pop players. We've seen the emergence of the OTAs being the main forms of transacting. We've also seen a lot more domestic airlines emerge in India, and air travel, which at that point in time was largely viewed as the purview of corporate travelers or the rich, has today become increasingly democratized. I mean, we are talking about, India today being one of the fastest growing aviation markets in the world rather. It's expected to be the third largest aviation market by 2026. And on the back of the low fuel prices, we've seen the airlines being very aggressive in terms of the pricing. And that has allowed a large number of customers, not just from the main metro cities, but even from the tier 2, tier 3 towns to come into the purview of air travel. So I think we are seeing a very healthy phase of the travel industry, which will only continue to grow at this rate for the next 5 to 10 years as the economy grows at 7+%.
Speaking of disruptors, technology, of course, has changed most industries across the board. How has technology changed the way the travel industry functions in India? Is it, in your mind, the big disruptor? But if there was one aspect of technology, whether it is mobile, whether it's 4G, that has had the biggest impact, what would you say it is?
I think technology, as you rightly point out, is a big disruptor. It's also an opportunity for innovation for companies like ourselves. India has come a long way, right? India, went directly from fixed line to mobile. We literally, on the broadband and internet side, became a mobile internet only market to a large extent. And today, almost 65% of our traffic is coming from mobile devices. So mobile is becoming more and more pervasive. The launch of 4G networks in India will ensure that mobile internet penetrates much deeper into the country. And for someone like Yatra, we feel for us it will become the dominant form using which customers will come and transact with us. It started off with being the tool that customers used initially to search. They would still get onto the desktop to book, but increasingly we've seen mobile apps become the predominant form using which customers transact with us. The beauty of mobile also is that it allows us to be in constant communication with our customers. So when a customer is in a destination as well, we are able to reach out to him. It provides us very real-time feedback. It provides us more information about the customer's buying behavior, about the kind of things and activities that they're undertaking, and allows us to tailor make a product proposition which is aptly suited for the customer. So mobile is a big disruptor, and going forward we feel technologies like virtual reality will allow customers to experience a destination, rather experience a product within a destination as well before they actually make a buying decision. So I think technology is playing a very dominant form, a dominant role, and will continue to do so in the future for the travel industry.
The reason I ask you that question is to understand from you how can and should MSMEs and entrepreneurs ensure they use technology to create a level playing field for themselves, even as technology is leveling the field between small and large players.
One of the things that I've witnessed over the last 10-12 years is that a lot of SMEs are to a certain extent afraid of technology. They're afraid of adopting technology. The one thing that people must realize, especially in a business environment, is technology will disrupt them. Now the question is, do you embrace technology and be the disruptor, or you let someone else embrace technology and disrupt you? And I think that's the choice that a lot of companies will face. So I think people more and more have to be open to adopting technology and using it as a means of disrupting the industry status quo. If you are afraid of embracing technology, then I think technology is going to disrupt you, and then you'll be at someone else's mercy. And I think that's one big cultural shift which needs to happen in the MSME sectors as well. Today large companies do realize the power of technology. They invest aggressively behind technology, be it getting the right talent, be it hardware, be it software, and they're willing to make that leap of faith. A lot of smaller organizations and mid-tier organizations are not willing to do that. And I think that's where the opportunity and the threat lies for them. So my advice to medium-scale enterprises is to be a lot more open to technology and embrace it. Be willing to disrupt the status quo using technology, irrespective of what field you're in. We've seen this happen in the field of travel, where people initially looked at online travel as a fad. A lot of people in the offline industries wrote this off, saying India will never become an online market. People in India will continue to be suspicious about online. But today, when you really look at it, more than half of travel in India, especially on the domestic air front now, is being booked online. And this disruption has happened in a period of only 6 to 7 years. So I think people need to be very aware of the power of technology and be open to adopting and embracing it.
You're someone who's constantly innovating in the field of travel. How do you ensure that you continue innovating in this space? And what advice do you have for our viewers who possibly say that, they may not have the funds, or they don't know how to innovate, they don't know where to start when it comes to innovation in the travel space? What would you have to say to them?
I think it's very important to be in a state of continuous innovation. So as the leader of an organization, you have to instill that culture in your organization to continuously look at innovating. Because innovation is not a one-time exercise. So when we think about product development, we think of this not just as a one-off product. We think of this as a continuous innovation cycle. You're bringing out phase 1 of the product, then you have to develop phase 2, phase 3 based on how the consumer behavior itself is evolving. And more often than not, the first product that you come out might not meet 100% of the customer's requirements. It might not be 100% consumer need gap fit. So you have to continue to innovate. And that's what I've seen again as a shortcoming in a lot of the smaller organizations. People look at this as a one-time exercise. Innovation is not a one-time exercise. A lot of travel and people in the travel industry came out initially with websites. Hoteliers built their own website. But once you build out a website, that's not the end of the journey. That's the start of a journey. So it's important to recognize that technology needs to be a continuous part of your business. It's as important as having any other element of it, be it marketing, be it sales, and you have to think of it as a continuous journey. So if you put up a product, if you build a website, think of this as a start and then continue to innovate from there. Keep continuing to try out different things and figure out what is the user experience that works best for your product and your customer base. I think that is one advice again which is critical for people to incorporate. It's not a one-time exercise, it's a continuous innovation cycle, and that's what companies like ours have done, which is why we've reached the success that we have.
Yours is a highly fragmented industry, Dhruv. How do you stay on top of competition? Is this fragmentation a positive, or is it a challenge, particularly for smaller companies and MSMEs? And how do you develop an USP to ensure that you stand out in such a fragmented market?
Again, I think it's very important today to have an open mind to competition. the rules of engagement and the rules of competition in our industry are changing constantly. There was a time when travel agents viewed us as a threat. We used to view the offline travel agent as competition. But over a period of time, we realized that co-option was a better process as opposed to head-on competition. Smaller mid-scale travel agents bring their own skill set. They bring a very personalized touch that they offer to customers. Some of them extend credit to their customers, and those are services that maybe in our environment we cannot directly offer. So we took the route of partnering with them, and today we are happy to say, that we've got over 15,000 smaller and mid-sized agents who partner with us on our platform. These are small mom and pop travel agencies. These are people who might not even come from the travel trade but had existing customer base and looked at this as a way of enhancing their revenue opportunity. And we provide them with a technology platform, we provide them with a full suite of products, and they can use all of those to service their customers. So we decided to take this as an opportunity for us as opposed to looking at this only as a threat. So our thinking also in this matter has evolved over a period of time, and we've kept a very open mindset to this. Likewise, I think for smaller organizations, they should look at larger organizations today who are investing more behind technology as a partner. Don't look at them as only as a threat or as a competitor, as a large competitor who's trying to get into your space. Think about how can you partner with them and what is the value add that you bring to the table. I think that is critical for each organization to assess that this is the value add, this is the expertise that I'm bringing to the table that no one else is able to replicate. Hence, someone would want me as a partner because of this unique value add that I'm bringing to the table. So I think the lines of competition in the industries will continue to blur, and we will be in a stage of continuous co-option as opposed to direct head-on competition.
Dhruv, do stay tuned. Let's take a quick break, but on the other side, we'll continue this conversation with Yatra. Welcome back. You're with us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight we're putting the focus on the travel space and talking about trends that you should keep in mind for 2017. Has demonetization had any impact on your business?
I think demonetization, we view this as a very positive step, especially from a digitization of the economy point of view. The kind of digital penetration which earlier might have taken a 3 to 5 year time frame will end up being achieved in the next 6 months. So I think there is some initial pain which is there as we go through this change, this huge cultural change which is happening in the country. But in the long run, I see this as a huge positive impact for online industries and industries in general. So there is some short-term pain, but I think longer-term impact of this is going to be extremely positive.
Speaking of government action, GST, of course, is going to be the one big disruptor, the one big change that we're all likely to see, even as the finish line doesn't seem to be set in stone just yet. How do you advise, and what is your opinion about how small companies in this space should go about preparing for this change?
I think GST will potentially have a huge impact on the industry. It will make the taxation policies very transparent, and especially on the hotel side, the budget hotel side, there are lots of challenges. Each state has a different tax structure. You've got cities having their own tax as well. You've got luxury taxes coming in at the mid to higher end. So I think there are several nuances on the tax side which will get harmonized once the GST gets rolled out. So to that extent, I think it will make life very transparent from a hotelier's point of view. It will also make life very transparent from a customer's point of view, because then he will know exactly what is the tax component which will flow through to him. As an industry and as a professional in this sector, I think it's very important for you to realize what industry, what specific area within the industry you're operating in, and what is going to be the impact of GST on you. There are various nuances in this, so it's very important to understand the specific application for you. In our case, we continue to monitor the space very closely. We are looking at what are the implications on different parts of our business, what happens on flights, what happens on hotels, what happens on holiday packages, and trying to assess the impact of each one of them. But I feel this is one of those changes which will bring in tremendous amount of transparency into an industry which from a consumer's point of view has at times been viewed as opaque. So I see this as a massive positive benefit for the industry.
So then let's talk about government reform and the one policy or the one change that you would definitely like to see for the travel industry that you think is going to have a big impact.
I think, the airline part of the business also, I feel, is one which has been very heavily taxed and regulated. It's very important to have a clear structure over there on the taxation and reduce at times the multiple level of taxes which flow through on the aviation side, because the end result of that is it's increasing the price to the consumer. And if India truly wants to be a large aviation market, it's very important for us to make sure that the tax structures are also streamlined to ensure that the end price to the consumer does not go up artificially. So I think on the aviation side, that's definitely something which is required. There are multiple state central issues that come into being when you talk about the aviation policy. So it's important to streamline the taxes on that side. GST, I think, should largely clear out the issues which are there on the hospitality side.
I want to ask a slightly big picture question at this point. How do MSMEs work with larger peers like yourself, and also how do larger players work with MSMEs? One or two tips in terms of strategizing for MSMEs in the travel space?
I think MSMEs should look at creating their own niche and have a certain value add that they bring to the table. Like I mentioned, in the scenario that we have where we've got this large range of travel agents working with us, we look at each one of them as providing a unique service to their own customer base. They provide personalized service, they provide credit, they provide other assistances that we might not be able to provide, and we provide them in return a technology platform. So it's important for a medium scale enterprise to realize that these are my limitations and these are my strengths, and then work with someone who's able to solve their limitations for them. So technology, as we've seen, and investment in technology is a challenge that medium scale enterprises face. They can leverage the technology that people like us bring to the table, and on the other hand, they provide us deeper access into a customer base which maybe at times we can't directly access. So that's a mutually symbiotic partnership which gets created. Similarly, I think it's important for SMEs and medium scale enterprises to realize what is the value add that they have, what is their strength, because more often than not, people end up trying to do too many things and lose what is their core competence. So it's important to look at this from that perspective, that this is my core competence, I'm doing this better than anyone else, and for other things I should look at partnering with someone else. Don't try and do everything yourself, because everyone has limited resources. So look at your strength and partner with someone who's being able to bring a complementary set of skills for you.
Yatra has a very strong branding strategy. How has that worked for you? Do you think there is a sufficient brand awareness amongst MSMEs in the travel space? And what, in your opinion, should a good branding strategy look like?
I think in the consumer industry, and especially consumer internet, it's very important to have a strong brand, a brand that customers can trust. So it's not just about high recall, which is typically what people tend to focus on, but you have to look at the attributes of the recall. So in our case, when we look at this, for us, brand trust is the most primary element that we look at, because at the end of the day, when you're transacting online, it's not an interpersonal transaction which is happening. As a customer, you're transacting with a website. So you need to make sure that there is that incremental level of trust. And at Yatra, we focused quite heavily in terms of generating that brand recall along with the brand trust. So if you look at Economic Times, brand equity survey, we were ranked the most trusted brand amongst the OTA space. We were ranked number 6 overall in the e-commerce industry in India. So it's important to focus not just in terms of generating awareness, but making sure that people associate the right attributes with your brand. And especially if you're an online brand, then it's very important to make sure that trust is one of the key attributes that the brand stands for. So when you were asking about branding strategy, I think that's very important. The messaging is equally important than just the saliency. You shouldn't just focus on top of mind recall. You should focus a level deeper than that in terms of what are the attributes that a customer is associating with your brand, and then focus on building out the attributes that really matter in the customer's decision-making process for transacting online.
Speaking of branding, online and social, of course, is of critical importance as far as most businesses go, and perhaps the best friend that an MSME can and should have. What should a good branding strategy for an MSME which is looking at expanding on social media, which is looking at expanding online, as far as the branding strategy is concerned, what should that look like?
I think building a brand online, while viewed as cost efficient, is also a challenge because it really needs you to think deeply about the customer. See, online, while there is the positive of online that it provides you incremental reach, the challenge also with online is, if not done correctly, the virality of it can also negatively impact your business. The way we've thought about this is to use online in a more peer-friendly manner. So use people who've transacted with Yatra as brand ambassadors, leverage their networks to further create a more reliable network of people who would in a way have a positive influence on the brand. So it's important for people to think around referral strategies from an online perspective and not just in terms of just awareness generation. We've also looked at online to create awareness using viral content. So we've had a couple of viral films which have been very effective and hard-hitting, and they've had tremendous amount of push from consumers themselves. It's not that we are trying to push that content directly. Our take is we are trying to create innovative concepts, put those concepts out to our own customer base, and then look at the customer base to forward that content, to refer that content to their friends and family circles. I think that's how you go about continuing to build out awareness along with trust, because it's coming from a trusted source. So I think the same is what I would advise MSMEs to look at their current customer base, target their current customer base, and then use their current customer base to refer their products and services to their extended group of friends and family. I think that's how the power of social needs to be harnessed. It's not just about blasting out messages to a large group and then being associated with spam messaging. It's important to make sure that you get people who are your promoters to forward your message to their sets of friends and families. Then the power of that really gets amplified.
That was a conversation with a leading company in the travel space. Do remember that if you have a business that wants to be featured here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, you can always write in to us at leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com. You can personally tweet at me at Sunanda_J. You can reach us on social media using the hashtag LOT, or call us on that number you see on your screen. We promise to have all your questions answered. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.